Chapter 1. The City of Promises. The train arrived just after sunrise. Lynn stepped down with a small suitcase in one hand and a faded photo in the other. The photo showed her younger brother, Nam, smiling with 2 missing teeth. She had promised him she would come back soon, with money, gifts, and maybe even a new bike. The city was loud. Cars honked. People shouted. Buildings stood tall like giants. Lynn had never seen so many people in one place before. She looked up at the gray sky, took a deep breath, and whispered, "I can do this." She found a small room to rent with shared walls and no window. The rent was cheap, and the landlady didn't ask many questions. That night she lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, thinking of home. Her mother's voice, her brother's laugh. She missed them already. The next day she started looking for a job. She tried shops, cafes, and markets. Most said no. One man looked at her body, not her eyes, and said, "Maybe come back tonight." She left quickly, heart beating fast. Finally, she got a job washing dishes at a noodle shop. The pay was low, but it was something. For 2 weeks she worked hard, standing on her feet all day, hands red from soap and water. She sent half her pay home. Her mother called once, crying on the phone. "Thank you, Lynn. You're so strong. Nam is doing better." But good things don't last long. One morning, the owner accused Lynn of stealing money from the tip jar. She hadn't, but he didn't listen. "You people from the countryside are all the same," he said coldly, and fired her on the spot. She begged for one more chance, but he turned his back. With only a little money left, Lynn walked the streets in silence. She sat on a bench in the park, staring at the ground, wondering what to do. That's when a woman in red heels walked by. She stopped, looked at Lynn for a moment, and smiled. "Tough day?" the woman asked. Her voice was warm, almost kind. Lynn nodded slowly. "I lost my job." The woman sat down beside her. "What's your name?" "Lynn." "Well, Lynn," the woman said, crossing her legs, "you're young, pretty. You could make real money if you want." Lynn frowned. "Doing what?" "Massage. Relaxing rich men. Talking. Smiling. Just being nice." The woman handed her a business card with no name, just a phone number. Lynn hesitated. "Is it safe?" The woman laughed softly. "Safer than starving." That night, Lynn looked at the card for a long time. She didn't call. Not yet. For 3 more days she searched for work. She sold snacks on the street, but the police took her things. She tried handing out flyers, but the pay was so low she couldn't even afford rice. One evening, her mother called again. Nam had a fever. They needed money for medicine. Lynn cried after the call. Alone in the room, stomach empty, she held the card in shaking fingers and dialed the number. A woman answered. "Hello? I'm looking for work. Come tomorrow, 9 p.m. Wear something clean, no jeans." The place was in a quiet street, behind a glass door with pink curtains. Inside, it smelled like perfume and something else Lin didn't know. A woman named Mai greeted her. She had sharp eyes and red lipstick. "You're nervous. Don't be. First time is always hard." They gave Lin a short dress and high heels. She looked at herself in the mirror and almost didn't recognize the girl staring back. Her hands were cold. Her lips trembled. Her first client was a man in his 40s. He smiled too much. She followed him into a small room, heart pounding like a drum. When he touched her arm, she flinched. Afterwards, she sat in the bathroom for a long time. She didn't cry. She couldn't. She just stared at the floor, empty inside. That night, she sent money home. Her mother replied, "Bless you, Lin. You're saving us." But Lin didn't feel like a savior. She felt like someone who had fallen into a hole and wasn't sure how deep it went. Chapter 2. Shadows and Secrets. Lin got used to wearing high heels. At first, she tripped over her own feet. The shoes hurt her toes and left red marks on her heels. But after 2 weeks, she walked in them like they were part of her skin. She learned to smile without showing her teeth. She learned to laugh even when nothing was funny. And most importantly, she learned to lie. Every night she worked from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. The clients came and went, some gentle, some cold, some rough. They all called her sweetheart or baby, but never her real name. Lin stopped correcting them. Maybe it was better that way. During the day, she lived a different life. She wore simple clothes, tied her hair back, and called her mother on Sundays. "I'm doing fine," she would say. "I work at a clothing shop. It's not easy, but I'm saving money." Her mother believed her. "I'm proud of you," she said. "Nam is better. He misses you." Lin smiled into the phone, but her heart felt heavy. After each call, she sat alone in her room, holding her knees to her chest. Sometimes she wrote in a notebook, just words, pieces of herself she couldn't say out loud. "I am not bad. I am not dirty. I am just trying to survive." There were other girls like her at the parlor. Mai was the loud one, always making jokes to hide the sadness in her eyes. She smoked between clients and never talked about her past. "There's no point," Mai said one night. "The past only makes you cry." Thao was quieter. She had a daughter living with her aunt. She worked 5 nights a week and sent almost every dong home. "One more year," she told Lin. "Then I'm out, I swear." Lin listened, but said little. Everyone had their own dream of escape, but dreams, she learned, were dangerous. They gave you hope, and hope could break your heart. One night, Lin had a client who was drunk. He shouted at her, grabbed her hair, called her names. She didn't scream. She just closed her eyes and waited. After he left, she cleaned the room and washed her face twice, but still felt dirty. Mai, the woman who ran the place, gave her a tissue. "You okay?" Lin nodded. "Just tired." Mai looked at her for a long time. "Don't let it get to your heart. This job, it's not who you are. It's just what you do." But Lin wasn't sure anymore. After a while, the line between who you are and what you do gets blurry. She stopped looking in the mirror. She hated her own reflection, the way her eyes looked older, the way her smile didn't feel real. The girl who came to the city with dreams was gone. In her place was someone else, someone harder, someone quieter. One afternoon, as she was walking back from the market, she saw a group of university students laughing outside a cafe. One of them dropped a book, and Linh picked it up. "Thanks," the girl said. Linh looked at the title, Modern Vietnamese Literature. "Do you study here?" Linh asked before she could stop herself. "Yes, I'm in my 3rd year. You?" Linh paused. "No, I work nearby." The girl smiled politely and left. Linh stood there for a moment, the book still in her hands, before remembering to return it. That night she wrote in her notebook again. "I wanted to study. I wanted to write. Maybe I still can." But even as she wrote those words, a voice inside whispered, "Not people like you." The money helped, of course. She sent enough home for Nam's medicine, and her mother said she could finally fix the roof. But each time Linh sent money, it felt like she was selling a part of her soul, a trade she never agreed to. Still, she continued, because stopping was harder than staying, because leaving meant facing the truth, because if she didn't do this, who would pay for Nam's school? Who would take care of her mother? Some nights she sat outside after work, watching the streetlights flicker. The city looked beautiful from far away, like a dream. But inside, it was full of shadows, just like her. Chapter 3. The Man in the Rain. The rain came suddenly that night. It hit the city like falling glass, hard, loud, and fast. Most clients canceled their appointments. Linh sat in the corner of the lounge, watching drops slide down the window like slow tears. The other girls chatted or scrolled on their phones. Linh sipped her cold tea, already dressed in her black dress and heels, waiting for someone who might not show. At 9:40 p.m., the bell rang. A man walked in, shaking water off his coat. He wore glasses, looked around 30, and had the quiet look of someone who didn't belong there. Mai greeted him with her usual smile. "First time?" He nodded. "You want a drink first?" "No," he said gently. "I'd just like to talk." Mai raised an eyebrow. "Talk?" The man nodded again. "Is that possible?" She glanced at the girls, then at Linh. "You, go." Linh stood up, unsure. Her heels clicked against the floor as she led him into one of the quieter rooms. She offered him a seat on the small couch. He sat carefully, as if afraid to break something. Linh kept her usual smile on. "So, what would you like to talk about?" He looked at her for a moment, then said, "You don't have to pretend with me." The smile faded from her lips. "Excuse me?" "I mean, you don't have to act. I'm not here to touch you or judge you. I just needed to be with someone, not alone tonight." Linh narrowed her eyes. "This isn't a therapy room." "I know. I'll still pay." She didn't know what to say. For a long moment they sat in silence. The rain pounded on the roof. Finally, he spoke again. "My name's Hui." She hesitated, then replied, "I'm Linh." A real name. Her real name. She almost never used it at work. Hui leaned back. "What do you like to do, Linh?" She blinked. "What?" "You know, In your free time, before all this? No one had ever asked her that. Clients wanted to know her price, her body, her fake moans, not her thoughts. I used to read poetry and write things down, little stories. Hui smiled. You still do? She shook her head. I don't really have time now. He looked at her gently. You should make time. Stories are the only way we stay human. She laughed softly. That's a nice thing to say, but not everyone has the luxury to stay human. They talked for almost an hour, about books, rainy weather, food from their hometowns. He told her he worked in IT, lived alone, and liked silence too much. Lin found herself laughing, genuinely, for the first time in weeks. When he left, he paid without touching her. Thank you, he said, for the conversation. Same time next week? She asked, not sure why. He nodded, and he came back. Every week. He never asked for more than a quiet room and her company. He brought her a book once. Another time he brought warm tea from his favorite cafe. Lin started waiting for Thursdays, not for money, but for him. With Hui, she didn't wear the mask. She spoke like herself, sometimes shy, sometimes sharp, always honest, and he listened. One evening, after a long silence, she asked, "Why do you come here?" He looked into her eyes. "Because I'm tired of being invisible, and I think you are too." She didn't answer. She couldn't. That night, she sat in her room, holding the book he gave her, A Little Life by Hanya Yanahaga. On the first page, he had written, "To Lin, you are more than your job. Don't forget that. H." She cried. Not because she was sad, but because someone finally saw her. Not the body, not the face, but the real girl behind the red curtain. The next day, she bought a new notebook. She wrote 3 pages without stopping. His name is Hui. He listens, and for the first time in a long while, I feel like I exist. But hope is dangerous. One evening, Hui didn't show up. She waited the whole night. Nothing. The next week, he didn't come either. And Lin, who had learned to survive everything, men, pain, silence, now sat in the staff room, staring at the door, feeling something she had promised herself never to feel again. Disappointment. She didn't know why it hurt so much. He wasn't her boyfriend. He wasn't anything. But still, his absence felt like a small death. Was it her? Did he find out what she really did when he wasn't around? The questions ate her from the inside. And just like that, the darkness crept back in. Chapter 4. When Masks Fall. Lin stopped asking about him after the 3rd week. She told herself it didn't matter. Hui was just another person passing through her life, like the hundreds of faces she had smiled at, laughed with, and then forgotten. That's what this place did to you. It made you forget. It made you numb. But something in her wouldn't let go. Every Thursday night she still looked at the door a little longer, and every Friday morning she still checked her phone, even though he had never asked for her number. Then one evening, as she stepped out for a quick smoke behind the building, she heard a voice that froze her. "She works at that place. I saw her. Don't let the sweet face fool you." It was Hui's voice. He was standing by a black car talking to someone, a woman, sharply dressed, arms crossed. "I'm not judging you, but you can't pretend she's someone else." "I wasn't pretending. I just didn't want it to be true." The woman scoffed. "You didn't want to know the truth, Big difference." Lynn didn't hear the rest. Her ears rang. Her hands shook. She dropped the cigarette and walked back inside, heart pounding in her chest. So that was it. He knew. He had found out, and instead of talking to her, he walked away. No goodbye, no message, just silence. That night, she didn't smile. Not for the clients, not even for Mai. She moved like a machine, said the words she always said, but her voice felt hollow. When she got home, she pulled out the book he gave her. She stared at the note inside, and without thinking, tore it out, slowly, carefully, page by page. She didn't cry. She thought she would, but there were no tears left. Instead, she opened her notebook and wrote, "I let someone in." He walked away when he saw the truth. Maybe that's what I deserve. The next few days passed in a fog. Mai noticed first. "You okay?" she asked during a break. "I'm fine," Lynn said, lighting another cigarette. Mai didn't push, but that night she left a chocolate bar on her pillow with a sticky note. "Don't let men eat your heart. Keep something sweet for yourself." It made Lynn smile, just a little. But the next day, tragedy came through the back door. Tao didn't show up for work. Mai called her phone. No answer. Mai knocked on her door, locked from the inside. By midnight, the landlord had broken it open. Tao was lying on her mattress, eyes closed, a bottle of sleeping pills spilled beside her hand. Gone. She was 27. She had a daughter who had just started school. The police said it was an accident. Mai said it was weakness. Mai said nothing. She just threw her phone against the wall and screamed. Lynn couldn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor, shaking. Tao had once said, "One more year, then I'm out." Now she was gone, just like that. It could have been her. It still could. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes tired. She touched her cheek gently. "Who are you?" she whispered. And for once, she didn't have an answer. The next day, she stayed in bed. She didn't go to work. She didn't eat. She didn't even turn on the lights. But that night, her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. She stared at it for a long time before picking up. "Hello?" Her voice cracked. "It's me." Pause. "Hui." Lynn didn't speak. "I know you saw me," he said. "I didn't know how to explain. I didn't want to hurt you." "You already did," she said flatly. "I didn't lie. Everything I said to you, I meant it. But you left." "I was scared," he admitted. "I thought I could handle it. But when I heard someone else talk about you, like a thing, I panicked." Lynn laughed bitterly. "You're lucky. You get to leave this world whenever you want. I don't." "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. You're still the most real person I've met." She didn't know what to say. So, she hung up. But something in her had shifted. She walked to her desk, opened her notebook, and wrote, "I'm still here. Still alive. That must count for something." Chapter 5. Letters Never Sent. Lynn began writing letters. Not emails, not texts, just letters on old paper with real ink. But she never sent them. She kept them folded in a small box under her bed, like tiny secrets only the paper could hold. The first was for Hui. You didn't save me, but for a little while you reminded me that I was someone worth seeing. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all love is, even if it ends. She wrote to Tao next. I wish I had hugged you more. I wish I had asked how you were, really were. I hope, wherever you are, you're finally free. Then she wrote to herself, Dear Lin, you are not broken. You are tired, yes, hurt, yes, but you are still standing, and that means something. Each night she added another page. She didn't know why. Maybe it was a way to stay sane, or maybe it was just to remember that she could still feel. A week after Tao's funeral, something strange happened. Lin was out buying noodles when a woman stopped her on the sidewalk. She wore a plain blue shirt and carried a clipboard. Her voice was soft but steady. Hi, I'm from Lotus House. We support women in difficult jobs. Massage, karaoke, factory shifts. You know, places where things aren't always safe. Lin froze. What do you want from me? Nothing, she said calmly. Just to talk. Maybe over tea. No pressure. Lin hesitated. Then she looked at the flyer the woman handed her. Free counseling, legal advice, vocational training, a second chance. Something in her chest stirred. She met the woman, named Chi, a few days later at a quiet cafe. Chi listened more than she spoke. She didn't ask about clients or trauma. She just asked one question. If you had another chance, what would you do? Lin answered without thinking. Write, and maybe study again. She smiled. That's a good answer. Better than revenge or running. She handed Lin a form. We offer night classes, scholarships too. You won't get rich, but you might get free. Free. The word tasted strange in Lin's mouth, like something too sweet after years of bitterness. That night, she wrote another letter. Dear future, I don't know if I believe in you, but tonight I'll try, just once. Please be gentle. The first class was small, just 7 women, aged between 18 and 40. Some had scars on their arms, some looked like teachers, some didn't talk at all, but they all sat in silence as the instructor wrote on the board. My name is. Lin stared at the page for a long time before writing, My name is Lin. I am 23 years old. I am not my past. She didn't tell Min or Mai about the class. Not yet. She still worked 4 nights a week, but now, twice a week, she left early, just for an hour or two, to sit in that little classroom, learning how to be herself again. Some nights she still dreamed of Tao. Sometimes they walked through a market together. Sometimes they sat on rooftops, watching the stars. Once, in a dream, Tao said, You can leave, Lin. You don't owe pain to anyone. She woke up crying. A month passed, then 2. Lin wrote every day. Her diary grew thick, the box under her bed filled with folded letters. She started using her tips to buy second-hand books instead of cigarettes. And one day, as she was leaving Lotus House, she saw Hui. He was standing across the street, talking to someone. She froze. He looked different, maybe, or just older. He didn't see her, and for the first time, she didn't feel pain. She felt peace. That night, she wrote one last letter to him. I don't hate you anymore. You were a chapter, not the whole book, and I'm still writing. Chapter 6. The Choice. The call came on a quiet afternoon. Lin had just returned from class, her notebook still in her bag. Her phone rang. It was her mother, her voice shaking. Name's in the hospital. He collapsed at school. They say it might be his heart. Lin stood frozen, the world around her going silent. Is he? He's stable, but we need money for the tests. A lot. The doctors say it's urgent. Lin promised to call back. Then she sat down on her mattress, heart racing, hands cold. She had some savings, just enough for rent, food, and her next course payment. Not nearly enough for a hospital. She thought of calling Chi, but how much could the organization do? The public hospitals were slow. The private ones needed cash, fast. Later that evening, Mai called her. It's been a while, Lin. I heard you've been busy with other things. Lin didn't respond. I have a client, Mai continued. Very rich, very clean, one night, 10 times the usual. Silence. It's easy money. Walk in, walk out. You could pay for your brother's treatment and still have something left. Lin didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. That night she walked for hours, past bright shops, quiet alleys, schools, old book cafes. She passed by Lotus House, but didn't go in. Her thoughts chased each other in circles. Her brother's face, the sound of her mother crying, her classroom, her notebook, the feeling of writing something honest. She remembered what Tao once said. We always think it's the last time, until it's not. She remembered Hui's letter. You're still the most real person I've ever met. And Chi's voice. You won't get rich, but you might get free. Freedom. She looked up at the sky. The stars were faint, but they were there. She went home and opened her notebook. She wrote, Tonight, I choose. Not out of guilt, not out of fear, but out of love. Real love, the kind that protects without destroying. Then she called Mai. I'm not doing it, she said softly. Mai was quiet for a second. Then, You're sure? You know what you're saying no to? Yes, Lin said. I do. She hung up. The next morning, she went to Lotus House and told Chi everything. The money, the hospital, the offer. Chi didn't flinch. She said, You made the right choice, and we'll help you. They helped her apply for a support grant. They contacted a charity clinic. Within days, name was transferred. His tests were done. It wasn't serious, just a heart murmur, treatable. When Lin called home, her mother cried again. But this time, Lynn didn't feel shame. She felt light. For the first time in years, she breathed deeply. Weeks later, Lynn stood in front of a small group at a writing workshop organized by the center. She held a short piece in her hands. Her hands trembled a little, but her voice didn't. My name is Lynn. I was once a name behind red curtains, a girl people forgot the moment they walked out. But I remember her. She was brave. She didn't break. And now she writes. The room was quiet. Then came soft applause. Not polite, not loud, but real. That night, Lynn sat on her balcony, looking out at the city lights. Below, motorbikes passed like fireflies. Somewhere, a child laughed. Somewhere, someone cried. And somewhere else, another girl stood at the same crossroad Lynn had once faced. She picked up her pen and wrote her final letter. To the girl who comes after me. I know it feels like there's no way out. I know you think no one sees you. But you are not invisible. You are not broken. You are a story still being written. And you, yes, you, get to choose the ending. She folded the letter and placed it on her desk. She turned off the light and let tomorrow come. Thanks for watching. Take action today, not tomorrow. Press subscribe. And let's keep learning together. You're doing great. See you in the next one. Stay strong.